I'm an avid traveler, born in the States. I've been through every mainland state in the US, but my favorite spots are all in Europe: France, Germany, Scandinavia. All these countries have such rich history and culture unlike anywhere you can find back home. Well, no surprise I found myself in the UK, browsing through all the old towns and castles. As someone who's been so many places, I've come to really disdain all of the usual touristy spots. They're all full of fake trinkets and people who despise you for just showing up and enforcing the usual dumb American trope. I guess I can't fault them as of where I am right now, but I still find it irritating. What I love is the authentic spots, the rustic scenery and untouched culture and history. I eventually caught wind of a very old castle, way out in the middle of nowhere. The locals told me some old wives' tales about it, how it belonged to the infamous Henry VIII, who had it constructed and used basically as a medieval gulag, sending those who he wanted dead to be tortured and disposed of. They told me that it was haunted, and no fool would be brave enough to step through those gates, and if they were, they wouldn't be smart enough to make it out alive. I took that as a challenge. On my way to the castle, I noticed just how out of the way it was. There were no paved roads, and no towns for miles. It was a vast barren marsh. This was thrilling to me as I loved exotic and untapped scenery, despite the mosquitoes and smells. On the way, however, I did manage to meet some farmers, who told me the same story as the other locals, but in a little more detail. With his thick English accent, one man told me, "So you wanna go to Blackhill Castle, eh? It's a long way away from here." Bloody Castle sat at the hill for centuries, and not a man as had the bullocks to walk inside. They say when you approach it, you'll just see the anguish it felt. The castle isn't haunted, you see. It's alive. It breathes, it moans. Don't fear to be bashful, young lad. That gut telling you to leave is the castle telling you it doesn't want you. I've never wanted to go to a spot more in my life. I love those spooky haunted mansions and hospitals back in the States. They were exhilarating. Just to jump at every thud and creak, to feel your chest pounding with every corner. I always walked away feeling a little underwhelmed, but I always loved the stories and being able to visualize every section of it. This was something completely different, I could tell. If this place had a tourist pamphlet, it would say, "Scariest Castle in Europe." I just had to go. But as I approached the hill, I understood full and well what the farmer spoke of. That feeling in your gut, the rigid sharp pain you feel. There was such an ominous presence to it. Those mighty spires that reached to the cloudy sky, the rubbled stone painted with age, the muddy path that split the dark grass. It all felt so cold and cursed. The most odd thing about this place is the complete inconsistent history to it. It only shows up on local maps, not even GPS. Every villager has a different origin and story to it. Some say Henry VIII, Edward II, James. Damn near every malicious king in English history could have built it. Some even say it was built by witches, or just showed up out of nowhere. Nobody here really knows, but one thing is for certain. The castle has a wretched history, and nothing but bad juju. The steel gates were barbed and covered in vines. They were shut and hadn't been open in ages. The walls, however, were very damaged and allowed me to climb through. Inside, there was a small courtyard, bones littering the field. They were covered in fungus and cobwebs, all armored and wielding varying weapons. The bones were mostly disintegrated, but I couldn't tell if that was due to time or whatever killed them. The keep's doors were massive and locked tight. There was no way I could get inside. For being clearly so old, there was an odd sense of preservation. Most buildings from this time frame were nothing but foundation, but this one was oddly kept together. I noticed a tunnel that went down deep under the construction. I figured this was the dungeon, and probably wouldn't be too deep, since it likely fell victim to dilapidation. Despite everything in my judgment telling me it was way too dangerous, I knew that was where things went down. I had to go inside. I just had to. As I climbed down, I saw a light. I was confused. Where could that have come from? I raced to the bottom and found a torch. Burnt to the bottom, it was barely lit. The light didn't flicker. It was like it was frozen. My phone's flashlight worked better, so I left it on the wall. The prison cells were filled with bones, in much worse condition than the ones on the surface. Cobwebs and rats filled the whole dungeon. There was the same fungus growing, but everywhere. As I got deeper, I heard a noise. It was a constant wet sound. There was more fungus, and I felt more fear. The mushrooms were white with black spots. The spores were tiny, but coated the wall like pollen. The sound was growing louder. I reared a corner, more cells, more bones, but some of them didn't look so old. They were coated with the mushrooms, but still held their color. I felt my chest burn. Then, as I got deeper, the bones had blood. The sound was even louder, echoing through the narrow hall. I felt frozen, but my feet kept pattering forward. I didn't know why. I didn't want to continue anymore, but I couldn't stop walking. As I reared the corner, I heard gnawing, hungry groaning. My feet weren't mine anymore. I saw a figure standing by a lit torch. It was massive, stocky. I couldn't see the features as the light was so dim. It was a silhouette in the darkness. Bones were piled on the sides. I kept walking. Then, my phone buzzed for low battery. It turned around. It was a man. I think. He was covered in the white fungus, and donned armor and a black hood. He had a huge axe like the ones they used to behead people with back in medieval times. He spoke to me. "How did you get here?" The beast mumbled, almost like it was in pain. I was frozen still. I saw it twitch and convulse. A figure approached from the shadows. She was a woman. Mystical glowing white eyes, and long straight hair. She would have been gorgeous without the mushrooms distorting her gaping mouth. She wore a long black cloak, and walked with a limp. We have not seen a soul in so long. How the world must look." She spoke softly. My eyes darted around, looking amongst the bones and rats. "Who are you?" I asked. "I, Madame Carnover. He is but a lowly executioner with an empty name," said the woman. The executioner moaned in despair. His pained eyes wallowed in sorrow. "A fool I am," he muttered. "This curse can only be cured when the roots are fed. I apologize, the rats and animals just cannot do." The woman whispered in a raspy voice, "I was not meant to be here much as you. Please accept an old woman's gratuity. Witches make the best lovers, they say. Come hither," said the corrupted woman in desperation. The executioner motioned towards me, his bones cracking and skins dragging like jello. I saw a trapdoor, adrenaline pumping hard through my body. I immediately jumped for it. Once inside, I fell on an entanglement of fungus and dead. It was an oubliette. This is where I find myself now, writing this. I don't know how deep I am, or where to get out, but I hear banging on the door. My phone is almost dead. I have no idea how I got a bar of data down here, but I don't remember where I am. I can feel something moving in here. Something isn't dead. I can feel my lungs about to explode. I can feel something scratching me. But for some reason, I'm starting to feel lightheaded, and I can't feel anything anymore. Please, help.